Yeah. Wow, you guys have an app. Metadata. Joe for Medidata on episode 151.
That's how it starts?
That's how
you guys have an app?
You guys have an app? There's an app for this. How come I don't know that?
You will soon.
That is cool, man. So let's talk about eSource, and for everyone listening and watching, this will go on YouTube. Joe from Medidata, Joe Dustin, right?
That's right.
From
That's
Medidata, right. Which is headquartered in Manhattan.
That's right.
Which I didn't know.
Now you
because
know.
I spent an entire week in Manhattan.
Because there aren't a lot of technology companies in Manhattan.
And I was networking with everyone I knew in that area.
There are a lot of technology companies in Manhattan that also have headquarters in San Francisco. Well, we were headquartered in Manhattan, Silicon Alley.
Wow.
Right?
Silicon Alley.
As they call it.
So where in Manhattan? Like where?
It's in Soho. So right outside the
Lower
Holland Tunnel.
Manhattan?
It's like right outside the Holland Tunnel. So between Soho, it's like between Soho, Tribeca, and the West Village. Okay. So it's Hudson Street and it's Hudson Street basically, right?
So
Hudson
in relation to Wall Street, where is that?
It's like a 10-minute walk from Wall Street.
Okay.
North.
Okay. And like on the blocks, like what, on the 10s, teens, 20s? Where?
Fourth.
Fourth, so it's way down there.
It's close to West 4th.
Okay.
Yeah, West 4th and 7th.
Okay.
It's kind of the closest what you would know. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're headquartered in there. We have a big building there. But
Do you go there every day?
No.
No?
No.
You work out of the house?
As a technology person that's been working in clinical trials for over 15 years. I've been at Medidata for 10 years. I'm currently the principal of mobile health and ECOA at Medidata. So I'm the tech guy running all that stuff. But I've been a work from home guy for the past 10 years.
How do you like that?
You know, at first, I remember it was 2008 when I joined Medidata. We went public in 2009.
Who wants to go to Manhattan every day when you're out?
Not when you're living in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
And at that time, I lived in North Carolina.
It was hard enough from the Bronx to get to Manhattan every day.
There's a couple subways that you can take.
Yeah, I did.
It makes it easy.
I did.
but yeah, so I like in our industry, in the clinical trials world, whether you're supporting clinical trials from technology side as a CRO, you know probably everyone but the ones that work in pharma, which life on the road and working from home is normal, right?
Yeah.
In pharma, those who like work in study managers and clinical trial associates or even data management or whatnot, they're very used to being in an office and many times have to be in the office, and they can work from home on Fridays and stuff like that. But more and more pharma companies, as I visit many of them, they're all like ripping apart their buildings, turning them into the next generation workplace.
Shared workspace.
Which is basically you don't get an office anymore.
Which is basically everyone who wants to can come in here and do whatever they want.
Yeah,
they
you
have
can,
a bunch of those places out here too.
And they have apps to like, our team's going to meet over here today. You're going to sit in different places, and the idea is to collaborate and network with people.
I network with a pharma company. When I say pharma company, I mean like a wannabe one. In LA, they use WeWork.
Yeah.
And
there's one next door to us.
Yeah, they have a 5-person team, and that's their office. And I'm like, how long is this going to last? And the guy said it could last forever because we use this place for our lab, which was an outside location.
Yeah.
So, kind of smart. They only pay like a monthly fee per employee, and they get. I mean, maybe you don't need a big place anymore.
I've met with a bunch of folks in even in pharma that they want to work for a pharma company, and they're in a certain like an innovation group or some other group that isn't necessarily centrally located. There's if a pharma company X is located in somewhere New Jersey or Philly, but they have like an office in San Francisco where all the innovation people are,
like the accelerators.
Yeah. So they're in San Fran. They have a WeWork office. Some of them live in like Colorado and other places where they just kind of they can work wherever. They travel a lot when they need to, but the WeWork thing is a really cool concept.
It's a game changer.
And a lot of people that are in our industry, and like again in supporting roles, like you're a CRO or tech, whatnot, they have home offices, and many times they'll go get their own WeWork spot because they can't stay at home with the kids and things like that. It just doesn't work. And sometimes companies pay for that, to get you because they want you, right? So it's a very the mobile workforce is something through technology and just the evolution of how we work in general is very normal now. At least for me, for the past 10 years, it was hard to get used to it, but I kind of missed the camaraderie of being in an office.
That's true.
But now I go to our office in Manhattan, like probably on average once every 10 days.
Yeah?
And,
so how many people are there on an average day?
There's like 500 people.
There?
Well, not on every day, but we have 4 floors and a roof deck on this building. And like every office we have has a roof deck.
So
it's
Medidata
kind of thing.
employs a lot of people.
We have almost 2,000 people. When I joined,
we
were like...
Is that the only office?
No.
You have San Francisco now?
We do. When I joined, we had like 400 people.
Okay.
But now we have...
And when did you join again?
I joined Medidata in 2008.
Hey.
So this is right before we went public in 2009. It was, yeah.
I didn't even know you were public until today.
Right? Now you know.
I just didn't even bother to look.
And that's we had one product, you may have heard of it, Medidata Rave.
See,
EDC.
this is, I think people in the industry, I've been in this industry for 13 years, but when you're a site, or even you're a CRO or a sponsor, you don't really think about, like, vendors, like, huge companies.
Yeah.
But you guys are, I don't think people understand, I didn't understand how big you guys are. I mean, you guys are huge.
We were the small company that kind of rose up. It was a really cool story.
And I'm sure you've been, like, scouted for acquisition targets, right? And
we've acquired some companies.
Right, but has anyone come after you? Like Drug Dev, Quintiles went after them.
Yeah,
you guys probably had a bunch of them.
I'm sure people have, but it obviously hasn't happened.
Yeah,
right? It's not. Is
the founder still running it? Or?
Oh, well, yeah.
Who's the founder?
It's two guys, Glenn DeVries and Tarek Sharif.
Is that the Superman cape guy?
Yeah, Captain Clinical.
Captain
on Twitter. Yeah.
Who is this guy? He's like a mystery man.
He's awesome.
He's on Twitter. That's how I know him.
That's his handle.
But he doesn't go to conferences or.
He pops up here and there.
Yeah.
But
he's still the CEO.
He's the president, and Tarek's the CEO. So they still share an office.
That guy's interesting. I mean, the little that I know about him is
the passion is very obvious, and it's one of the reasons we've been pretty successsul. Is
so
those
how
two
did
guys,
it start?
the culture.
You guys are only doing clinical research stuff.
Yeah,
right?
so technology-wise, we started just from the bench. We started so Glenn started Medidata at Columbia University, where he was a researcher. So he went to Carnegie Mellon and graduated, and then with like molecular biology was pretty much his thing. Wow. And he was doing bench research at Columbia with a partner of his that were doing basically prostate cancer research uptown Manhattan. And when he went to his partner, who at the time was his name Ed Igaguchi, he ended up becoming the first chief medical officer of Medidata back in the early days. He said, so we're going to do clinical trials, some investigator-initiated internal, right? Mm-hmm. This is 1999.
That's how everyone starts, apparently, huh?
And then working with sponsors as well, too. And they're like, so what's the systems that we use for this? And he just handed them a binder. So yeah, this is what we use. He's like, you're kidding.
Excel.
Right? And this is 1999, right? So the internet is happening, That
was around the time I got started in my first trial, part-time in 99.
And so, as the story goes, he started, not only was he a researcher and a biologist and just an engineer, he could code. And he built the first, one of the what became the first versions of Medidata Rave, EDC.
Wow.
And in essence, putting these things online and allowing you to manage the things that you need to do in a clinical trial, and it just it went from there, right?
And now you guys do what?
Everything. Now it went from a single product that did something really well, that rose up and pretty much took down
everyone.
At that time, it was Face Forward, and we got acquired by Oracle and became
and still have most of the market share on EDC.
The market leader, yeah.
Yeah.
But not the only company. I mean, there's many companies out there, and then they all have their strengths for sure.
There's like 5 big ones, and then there's random one DC.
But from there, we expanded the platform. So the way to grow was a platform approach to say every stakeholder in a clinical trial has a place in here. Whether you're a clinical site, you're a monitor, you're a study manager, you're a site budget person doing grants with you guys, right?
Yeah.
You're
we gotta talk
you're paying sites.
Yeah.
You're a financial person. You're a patient.
Yeah.
Patient apps, things like that. You're dealing with randomization trial
supply. Like e-diaries.
Yeah, all that. Yeah. So there's about 15 major capabilities that all have surrounding ecosystems of people and staff that support that you need to run a clinical trial.
Yeah, because what do they say? Every study has on average 12 vendors or something like that, right?
It's insane. How many do you have? That's about right, yeah. 12 or so vendors with,
Well, this SSV we did today, she was going through a list. It was like 10 or 11 vendors just right off.
And how many logins do you have as a result of that?
All of them have a separate one.
And are they like whiteboarded on the board, sticky notes on the monitor, all that kind of thing?
Evernote.
Evernote, yeah, okay.
Which I don't know if it's HIPAA compliant.
Password protected Evernote.
We use that. I have all my passwords in it. If someone hacks my Evernote, I'm done.
You're screwed.
Like everything.
I used to have this password protected spreadsheet. Now I moved to an app called Dashlane. Maintains all your passwords across devices, and I use basically Face ID to enter my password into things.
There you go.
So that's
so if you forget your password, you get your face.
So yes, your face never changes. So
wow, yeah, like 11, 12 vendors on average. So you guys are into Most of them.
We're into all that. Right? So there's 15 systems. I'll send you the list, but a lot of it is acronym soup. But basically, you know, out of the 15 systems, Medidata has all 15, and all 15 have various levels of maturity. Many of them are pretty much there with the market parity at this point. But because we started building beyond EDC maybe 7 years ago. So it's been a while,
and
right?
You'd be surprised how many, because I work mainly with like really small device diagnostic drug companies, right? Like 5 people teams, maybe 20 people teams, like the big ones we work with, right? 100. We had a bid for a pharma that had like 150 people. We came in second, but that would have been like by far our biggest.
It's the biggest growth area in clinical trials. I mean, there's only so many top 10 pharma.
That's
right?
my point. So there's more coming in every day now. So a lot of these people, I'm having conversations with them at least on a weekly basis. They want to do studies. They know they have to. They don't know the first thing about research. Like. You tell them EDC, they don't even know what that means.
And these are the people that are trying to get clinical trials, like a site?
They're trying to get, no, not a site. They're trying to create a study to get their diagnostic, their device.
Right, I'm sorry,
everything, through the system. So how do you, because they don't understand, these 15 vendors or these 15 different things that they need.
Sure.
So they don't know what they don't know. They bring in someone like me. I tell them, hey, this is what you need. Then they get overwhelmed, and I'm like, well, there's companies like Medidata that kind of do it all under one roof. There's other ones you can go like one vendor at a time and try to do it on a budget. Do you guys deal with these kind of companies, or do you try to stick to mostly the...
No, we have more smaller clients like the ones you just described than we would bigger clients. Again, we have 1,000 clients.
So as far as pricing with those guys, though, like, because everyone, I mean, if they get to see your capabilities, everybody would want to use Medidata, but usually the issue's price.
I would say that the price is very competitive, and most people, I think, would assume the opposite.
I assume the opposite.
It's not at all true. So I would say
you guys work with IITs, investigator-initiated?
Yeah, we have a pretty large academic contingent. Mostly in oncology, which is again where
like most of it is.
Yeah, where a lot of that is, and it's where a lot of the money, where they get a lot of their grants to do the research. In IITs is mostly oncology.
Yeah.
And neurology and neuroscience type stuff, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that. The big diseases that need a lot of work and a lot of funding from the government and whatnot to do that. Yeah. And as a result, so like for example, the National Cancer Institute inside NIH uses Medidata as a standard, and all of the cancer centers get the system paid for by the government, and that's a thing that helps us. And then they use the system for other things that are not funded by the government on their own. And so we were pretty good. Again, started at Columbia, right? We have a soft spot for the academics that we make it work, and because it's what they need, and you shouldn't have to settle for substandard stuff. And so the prices.
But nobody tells them this. That's your job, right? To go out and...
It's an awareness problem, I think, in some cases, and over time, as we've expanded, I think there's a lot of noise. And just speaking as someone who's been there for 10 years and been a technology geek and looking into what's new when it comes to the coming trends in clinical research and where things are happening with real-world evidence and digital health and things like that, there's a lot of noise and understanding what you really need to do.
There's a lot of noise, and episode 150 was, my take on the state of the industry. But
congrats on 150, that was big.
Yeah, thank you. We're trying to get to 250. But now, we got you on, and you go to conferences all the time, right? I mean,
one of my clients nicknamed me the conference guy.
Are you literally at a conference every week?
Not every week, no.
Like, what are you here for again?
I'm just here. I'm doing the West Coast tour, visiting clients up and down the West Coast.
Clients like universities or pharma?
Both. Mostly pharma though. And I would say.
You go to San Diego yet?
Yeah, not this week, no. But I have. I don't know. The conferences that I'll probably be at 6 conferences this year.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm not that many. Not that a lot.
I thought you were like at one every month at least.
No, it's spread out. And then summer, just kind of take the summer off from that. There are people that do that. That's mostly in pharma. The ones that are like the thought leaders that are in pharma. Like, nobody wants to hear from the technology guy. They want to hear from the person at the pharma company that's trying to do this stuff, and the technology people are trying to help them. That's kind of, it's really their vision. And we're out there trying to create solutions that
still science first, and then let's fit around that science. Let's fit the technology
Absolutely.
around.
And that's kind of like, that's where I play all the time, which is you can speak their language, and we're partners. Anyone that looks at it as a vendor is... I hate referring to that. I'm part the relationships and the clients and the things that the people that do really great research and are really successful are the ones that look at the technology they're using as an enabler to get to the end goal. That's really a true partnership. Yeah. When you're thinking about just the vendor world, then you're just basically price shopping, and you're looking. I mean, you probably you're getting into the CRO world yourself, you notice that people are just throwing out bids. They take the cheapest, best one, and it's brutal, right? That nobody wants to work.
Well, here's what they do. I've learned that last year. It's just the same thing of what the sites do. It's just the opposite. So when a site is given a study or given the opportunity to bid on a study, which sites don't bid on, but it's feasibility surveys. Okay, sites are asked.
When you get feasibility surveys as a site, are they electronic, like SurveyMonkey, or are they paper mailers?
Now they're SurveyMonkey usually, but they used to be like paper.
But there's no system that does that? Like, that's part of, like, a CTMS or anything?
Every sponsor's different. Okay. So you'll get SurveyMonkeys, you'll get some random online one.
But most of it's electronic at this point?
Yeah.
Of course. Okay, good. Just checking. I was hoping that was the case.
But it's the same. You're right, though. Like, so the sites usually embellish their numbers because they know everyone else is, right? Yeah. So the ones that get hurt are the ones that don't know they're supposed to embellish, and they put their true numbers. And I've been penalized for this before, too, when I first started. Mm-hmm. And the monitor said, hey, no, you probably want to increase the numbers because you're a good site, but, here's where you stand.
What kind of numbers are the ones that people send to embellish?
They usually embellish by like 20%.
But numbers, what are the numbers?
Like patient database. How big is your patient database?
Because it's all about patient recruitment. Where can you find me patients?
Like this one we had today for Alzheimer's dementia. How big is your database? And nobody really knows, because when you have like 10 doctors on your team, and then maybe 1 month one of the doctors leaves, or another month another doctor gets added, that could increase your database. I mean, it varies really. Sure, you just guess anyways. But sites tend to overestimate what they can enroll because they think that's how they get.
Do they give you specific inclusion criteria to test to look for and query your database?
They'll give you the IE.
Do you have ways to actually check that?
Nobody actually checks it.
No. Okay.
No. You know whether you want the study or you don't based on the synopsis. Mm-hmm. And then if you really want the study, you want to have good numbers, but you don't want to have too good where you're an outlier, because then they'll question your numbers. But you don't want to have too low either. You don't want to be an outlier in the other direction either. But CROs do the same thing with bids. It's just the opposite. They try to go cheap. We've been underbid by so many. It's what they do, they'll underbid to win it, and then they'll go back 6 months later and say, hey, we need more. And, and now they've got a hostage.
To death. Yeah.
They got a hostage.
It's never good. It's tough. I mean, I think you mentioned on a previous podcast that a lot of pharma companies are starting to bring this stuff in-house again.
They're bringing it in-house.
So I would absolutely agree with you on this.
I was going to ask you about that.
Talking to a number. So listen to your stuff. You can make the connections,
That's
right?
Awesome.
This is absolutely true, and I see a lot of the smaller companies.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's...
We like that. As sites, we like that.
They want to be lean and mean, and many of these smaller biotechs or small molecule company or have one drug in the pipeline trying to, and then they're attracting a lot of talent from big pharma. They want to come into a startup, take a chance, get some equity, and try and, people do this, right? And as a result, they've been through the big company thing and dealing with the big CROs. Which, by the way, I'm not trying to bash on anybody. They do a lot of good work, and there's a lot of good people that work there.
Yeah, but after all these mergers, it's kind of strange.
It tells you something when that happens, right? Because the models are shifting, and we'll get to how we should talk about how CROs are starting to virtualize their research and get into more virtual type trials. But we'll get more on that in a minute.
And then we get to in silico trials, which are. If you heard about
that, that's a whole other
Yeah.
The way these companies are having people that are experienced with doing the outsourcing of clinical trials the traditional way. They've been burned so many times. They're we can be lean and mean. We're going to hire 2 or 3 contractors, 2 or 3 inside people that'll manage it. and they'll bring the technology in-house that can do a lot of the heavy lifting for them, and the people internally, they can do the work with less FTEs because they have new tools that are doing like centralized monitoring and looking at data in like clustered ways and looking for outliers and looking for anomalies in the data that you would never see in a typical monitoring visit or whatnot, that the machine learning is doing it for you, right? Medidata has tools like this. Other companies have tools that do this, that are sort of like replacing the systems of CROs to be more strategic, like the whole risk-based monitoring thing, right? This is what this is the real value of what that does. In addition to turning CROs into more lean, mean machines that fit into their process and actually changing their entire process, it's allowing companies to do it themselves without a CRO, without a big CRO. And so some of these smaller companies, especially when they go to like the giant CROs when they get to phase 3, because they say, well, they have the site relationships and we want to go global and we need them. That's the most popular response I get. Now, there are definitely other scenarios where and I think it's tied to therapeutic area, where you need to bring in phase 1, phase 2, they need to partner with somebody. It definitely makes sense. But there are definitely certain therapeutic areas and certain company sizes where they're just like, I've been burned before, we're going to do this ourselves. They think they can do it better. Some of them succeed, some of them fail. But the ones that succeed use technology to their advantage to be more lean and mean, and they do it with a small team instead of hiring a CRO. And then they do functional outsourcing. So they don't outsource data management, they don't outsource monitoring. They might get someone to just do biostats for them, maybe. And they might have someone to do some of these like site visits, but regulatory. But well, no, regulatory is usually in-house.
We have a guy who's doing that in our stuff. He's a contractor, but he's the regulatory.
It's an interesting model, and I haven't seen an exact trend.
It's getting leaner though.
Oncology definitely the smaller.
Well, why did all these big CROs merge? Like LabCorp bought, whatever it was.
Covance.
IQVIA
IQVIA and IMS, right?
Syneos,
Inventive. It's an interesting model.
Because they're not getting leaner; they're getting bigger.
They're getting bigger, but they're also streamlining a lot of their processes. And when you have two companies that, and I don't know the inner workings of what at the top levels of these companies what they're doing, but when you see the top level of the CRO industry, there's such a big gap between the biggest companies and the next level. There is no middle.
Right.
And so you see this in other industries where the innovation is not really happening anymore. You just have people that are merging because of margins, and they can't, like, their profit margins are already so small when it comes.
It's the quarterly.
And so they have to go together and expand your reach, and alone we wouldn't be able to grow the way we need to grow, so you do that. And then you have the boutique CROs that have there's a place for them, right?
It's a cost,
and but they can't compete with the big guys. But there's a place where they have a niche.
You almost don't want to compete with them.
Exactly. But then when you have companies, the whole topic of like virtual clinical trials, is a hot topic where
Craig Lipset loves that. Craig, right?
Oh yeah. And Craig's great, and he's a visionary and a inspiration when it comes to those types of things, and really trying to lead the charge.
He's a pioneer,
especially pointing people in the right direction.
He was talking virtual trials in 2010.
In 2011 he ran the first one.
The one on overactive bladder, or what was it?
I forget. And so it was on an approved drug. That so the first virtual trial ever done was Pfizer on an approved drug that they retroactively designed into a phase 3 virtual trial with a drug that was already approved and safe and good. They said, can we get to that, same endpoints and same recruitment with the virtual trial? And by all, everybody says like, oh, it didn't work. By all means, we learned so much. They learned so much from that, and they didn't hit their recruitment. And I think some of the reasons they say that is because the certain indication was difficult to find people remotely, as opposed to having the sites that have the database of patients. Right.
The patient recruitment problem.
That was
everything stems back to that. I think.
Actually, the first trial was actually run on a Medidata system. It was a company called Mitris that.
Oh, that's right.
They're in Davis, California.
So do you guys do recruitment too, Medidata?
We don't have a recruitment engine, but we basically take patients from other companies and funnel them in.
How do you do that?
A lot of it's from social media.
So you guys do content marketing and stuff from other
No,
companies?
we don't. Other people do. We end up
in
making the hooks, like they just plug in and send the patients down, like so that you can be electronic. And that's expanding more, but it's basically in the virtual sense, it's social media recruiting. It's some other companies are doing a lot of this stuff, and if we're doing virtual clinical trials, then it's a lot of it's social media and ads. In other areas, like the call to action is download this app or text this thing or get this registration number to go sign up at this website. There's a study we're running right now called the Adaptable Study. Go to the adaptablestudy.com. It's basically like an aspirin research studies run by Duke at DCRI, and it's probably one of the largest virtual clinical trials running today.
And you guys are behind it?
Yeah, yeah. And the way it works is that there's mostly social media advertising, and most of the data is being pulled from EHRs. They're matched in an EHR system, and then in the clinic at the different because DCRI is running, so that the central point to get to the clinics is Duke and their partnerships. But they have this thing called the golden ticket, basically. That is it's a registration code that when they match inside the EHR, they're given a number, and they outreach to the patient next time they come in for a visit for someone that would be a good candidate who takes low-dose aspirin, like for heart conditions and things like that. We should enroll in the study to track long-term, right? And so they give them this golden ticket number. They go to the website, they sign up. But that's the majority of the way that patients are recruited through this EHR matching. But then also, if you get a social media ad or some other channel, you're funneled into that same portal that allows you to sign up without a golden ticket number. The golden ticket is just how you get it from the EHR system. And then once they're pulled in, they remotely consent. So it's e-consent online.
That's nice. Through you guys.
Yep, it's through the videos like that. That's kind of what Medidata has an e-consent tool, but it started here in the virtual trial sense, and that onboards patients into the platform.
So they do it completely virtual from their house.
Yeah. Research is really done on your couch. That's kind of how it is, right? They're interacting. They're getting I think they're in the study for years, but they're only getting. There's a lot of stuff that happens right up front. So you're consented. You have to fill out some baseline surveys, some information about yourself. If you're coming from the EHR, a lot of that stuff is pre-populated, which is great. And then you're randomized.
Where it gets interesting,
right? Yeah. And then you're randomized to a certain arm, and then you're put on a schedule, and you're engaged like every 3 or 6 months or 9 months, and you're getting things pushed to you, email alerts, and fill out this survey, tell us how you're doing, and it's a long-term virtual trial. And where that's going now is that same system is being used to say, if you want to do, if CROs want to start to virtualize their research, Medidata came up with this like graphic, a few of us internally, the thing called the trial dial. Hashtag trial dial.
Trial dial.
Yeah, and picture like a dial, being able to virtualize from 100% on-site clinic visits to 100% virtual visits, and everything in between. Like, it's virtual visits, it's telemedicine, it's shipping drugs to your house, it's mobile apps, it's sensors, it's all this. So there's some level of virtualization where these things are thrown into a clinical trial or not. And you should dial up the level of virtualness. Of course, my dial goes to 11.
It's like a high school locker.
Yeah. Or Spinal Tap.
Those things are tough.
Did you get the Spinal Tap reference? You didn't get the Spinal Tap? No? This dial goes to 11?
No.
I don't know the Spinal Tap reference.
What's the Spinal Tap?
It's a movie. Go watch This Is Spinal Tap.
And it's
about rock and roll in like the 70s and 80s.
This is Spinal Tap.
He has an amp. Just his amp goes to 11. And I said, well, why don't you just have 10 be the loudest? He goes, well, this is one louder. This one goes to 11. So the trial dial goes to 11.
I got you.
So that would have been a much better joke if you got it.
Yeah. I'll get it later. I'll watch the movie.
Okay. And so there are companies out there that are starting to really get into virtual trials and popularizing the idea. But the ones that are out there today are looking at 100% virtual studies. But to really ramp this stuff, you have to go like a hybrid approach first to get there. So you're not going to go 100% everything, because that means you have to totally transform the design of your trials, and that will happen, and that is happening in a lot of these groups in pharma. But if CROs, a lot of these companies that are going for that also call for like the death of the CRO industry. Basically, you guys are obsolete, you're antiquated, and you should all go away. And so that is not my perspective, nor the perspective of my employer. So I go to conferences where people are talking about virtual trials, and there's a lot of site coordinators in the clinic, in the conference.
Yeah, they say that'll never happen.
And they're like, why are we here talking about virtual trials when you guys are out for kind of eliminating us?
Yeah.
And the answer, some people are saying, well, the model has to change, you still have a role, but my role is like, no, you're not going away, but your involvement will definitely change.
You'll be doing different things.
Yeah.
So instead of doing, like I was telling you before we started recording, this small clinic, 2,000 square feet maybe, can do 12 trials a year.
Okay.
Right? And we have like 3 staff, not counting the PIs. I think 10 years from now, we'll be able to do 120 trials a year, but just they'll be simple. right? Using this kind of hybrid.
But if the main point I was trying to get to around CROs have a place in this future when some people think they don't. Yeah. But as they're consolidating, and there's a place where they can virtualize their whole operation. And the model tomorrow is not throwing armies of monitoring out there. You're embracing risk-based monitoring. You're embracing centralizing, the monitoring of information remotely and having the ability to acquire more data remotely from multiple sources, not just, it's eSource, yes, but multiple eSource feeds from things, EHRs, from sensors, from apps, from other data sources that are helping
technology will solve problems and create more in the process.
And then a CRO who has to support both kinds of models for the foreseeable future, probably not 10 years is going to be a big change, but at least in the next 2 to 3 years, people are going to ramp up this dial and say, well, half the study maybe will have a lot of virtual visits, but certain other locations where the study will run, like we can't do virtual visits, we can't do this like telemedicine stuff. There's not a lot of the mobile apps may not work all the way, but
those are temporary problems,
right? And so the on ramp to get there is this hybrid approach. So in my way that I talk in virtual trials is that you dial up maybe 50 or 60% to start, and then some trials will do both, like 100% on-site visits or less on-site visits, where you reduce patient burden, you get more high-quality data by asking the patients to do less. It should be better for the sites. It should be able to maybe run more studies in a virtual model, right, in theory.
Yeah.
And the CROs have a way to scale their business model to embrace more of this technology as an enabler, not as a hassle.
Yeah.
But do you agree with that? Where are you coming from?
Yes. However, so here's the problem, and this will work. I guess it's a free market, so it could work. Yeah, there's always going to be someone that says, yes, I'll do it. What my CRO is built on is bringing research-naive sites, research-naive physicians with a big database.
Sure.
So you're starting with the recruitment problem first, right? We already know if we bring on this site and we get them trained and up to speed and we handhold them, they're not going to have a problem getting patients. They might have a problem following the protocol. That's what we have our series go in there and help solve, right? So in order for this virtual trial model to work, even if it is a hybrid, you're going to have sites, the sites with the patients are going to say no way, right? So then you're going to have to go find these research naive doctors, because the problem will always be, okay, this is all great, but how are we going to get the patients?
Yeah.
And there's no vendor or partner that does recruitment that has succeeded, even if you look at the big ones. Like the big ones, we're not going to mention names, but you know who they are.
Yeah.
They start with an A. They end with an N.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they charge like $15,000 to $30,000 for a screening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't, and that's just a screening, not a screen failure. So, in order for this to work, we need to either perfect the patient recruitment component online, or bring on new doctors with the patients, and then train them on how to do it.
I had a client that was asking for kind of a pre-screening app, whether it was mobile or on the web, it was Alzheimer's. And it was mostly going to be filled up by their caregivers or their parents, or their kids or whoever was taking care of them. And they specifically wanted to like filter. They had a high screen fail rate because they were looking for specific types of Alzheimer's patients in a certain diagnosis at a certain time that this drug they had would work. And so they're saying if there's a way to reduce our screen fail rate by getting the right patients in that were pre-qualified further along when they get in the door, and if they're screen failed because of some other test they have to do in the clinic. And I was shocked to think that this wasn't already being done, but the study's been going on already for a couple years.
The problem is not with the technology; it's the trust. So, in order for this to work, you got to have a volume of patients willing to try, and it becomes an. So
then it becomes an awareness of clinical trials in general. But he was saying they were getting a lot of patients coming in, but they just were all screen failing because if they just asked some basic questions and some more advanced questions about their history and current diagnosis, and they would have the right patients showing up that were in essence leads that were pre-qualified to a point where like I'm gonna just do a couple final tests on you, but there's probably an 80 to 90% chance that you're going to be a good fit for the study. And that needs to be done more. And the advent of technology that can help that more, especially with pulling in data from EHRs and more mobile apps that are out there to pull in data from various sources. And I wrote an article on this in the industry about...
Where do you publish your article? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, but also different industry mags, like trade mags, pick up these things. They do interviews with me sometimes.
The trade mag?
Applied clinical trials, Fierce Pharma, Fierce Life Sciences.
Lisa Henderson?
Yep, exactly. And so I did a thing. Apple just released the ability to maintain your health records on your phone. You see this?
Through the health app?
Yeah. So in the health app, there's basically like now a place for your health records. And you just go in and connect to your patient portal all the different health systems that are out there. And there's like 25 or so that joined on the
Community
beta.
Hospital of San Bernardino, that's Dignity Health. Wow.
Yeah, there you go, right?
Really?
So you can pull in all your data on your phone. Now what Apple cares about, and this is huge for like my article that I wrote was more about what does it mean for clinical trials. This is huge for like health IT, healthcare, sharing your data with the next doctor you go to, portability of data, and all that stuff, right? And so what this... I was the first person to write something on what it means for clinical research. Most of it is kind of a recruitment advantage, because if you have your own data on your phone, what Apple doesn't care about your data, right? Everyone's worried about privacy and security. What they care about is creating the ecosystem of apps that will use your data to help bring value to something you care about. So if you have your data on your phone that's protected and secure, and you have control over it, and you download an app that has to pass certain qualifications, and Apple denies a lot of apps that like are just scraping your data, right? But this would be used to maybe match you with clinical trials, or if you're in some other app that...
So you have to opt in to that.
It would, and you can share you always ask, would you like to access your health kit information or from your health app, and you can share like your weight, your measurements, your blood type, or now your...
So who would pay for that? Pharma?
So that's the interesting thing, that there is really no ecosystem of apps yet.
Yeah.
But the key to make a great app, so people talk about patient engagement all the time, right?
Yeah.
The patient engagement is no different than customer engagement in any other retail brand scenario. Like you want to talk about like women with
what do they
chronic...
mean when they say patient engagement? It
engagement
basically means they want them in the study.
No, not at all.
No?
No. Patient engagement is keeping them engaged so they stay in the study, in the clinical trial sense. And that's engagement and retention. But patient engagement as a term really just means no different than like brands in the world trying to learn more about their customers and keep them customers. You want to keep them in a clinical trial.
Lifetime value.
So they give an app that engages you with content that you care about. So you go to Facebook, right? You check Facebook feed. No one you don't get reminders to go check Facebook, right? You just go because there's things there you care about. So we get better at keeping patients engaged in clinical research in any type of study, really, is giving them something they care about that is typically only related to the disease they're in. This is why the movement of more like...
them so much value that it becomes like Facebook.
And then they're sharing their health data anyway, and opt-in, so they're consenting to giving the data out to use for research purposes. And then as a result, someone could say, maybe you have an app that's around a patient community, a patient advocacy group, something around a certain therapeutic area, that now that you've joined that app and you're maintaining your parents' data or someone else's data that you're caring for, or yourself, you could now be pinged with certain clinical trial ads, if you will, for recruitment. It's like, hey, you might be, because I have more of your data, you're now... I'm not just looking for you to like maybe you'd be interested. I actually know you're a good fit because you've shared your data with me willingly, and I can now figure that out. The only problem with that is that the data that comes out of this and goes into the health kit, there still needs to be more put in there to really understand. And there really is no industry standard for inclusion criteria. And so it's kind of how do we write these queries?
There's no one really explaining what the clinical trial even is. I mean, this is assuming the patients know what that is.
Yeah, but then it also there is a bit of bias. So like right now it's obviously only on iPhones. Android will come out with something that does, whether it's an app or part of the ecosystem.
And only like super savvy patients are using this.
Right, but patients are people.
Yeah.
People inherently don't care about their health, just in general.
Right.
I mean, I only cared more. I mean, I'm not chronically sick. I'm a little overweight, but beyond that, I don't have any real problems. I got some family history of little things, but beyond that, on paper, I look great from the numbers perspective. Yeah. But I track my data and my health because I figure one day it might help me. someday. So the reason I track it, one, I'm in the industry and I'm a geek, and number two, I think one day it might be help me to aggregate as much data as possible over time.
Okay.
And the idea of using that in the future, it can only help me. But in general, especially today, when you're looking at trying to find people for clinical research, people inherently don't care about their health, so they're not looking about clinical trials unless they're sick. If they're sick, they have a chronic condition, then they definitely care, right? So those are the people you're targeting, which, depending on the health of the country and the world, that could be a pretty large population. And so again, advent of technology, engaging people with things that they care about, as a byproduct of that, you're drawing them into something that they also would care about.
That's fantastic. So I think then content marketing plays a role. I mean,
it's a huge role. Yeah.
Like video, audio, information, education.
I've seen a lot of startup companies that are looking at patient engagement that are starting in other companies. So there was a company, it was called Parallel 6. They were acquired by
San Diego.
They were acquired by PRA recently.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
So no wonder I didn't hear back from the.
Yeah. That could be what.
Yeah, we had a lunch. We had a lunch on 2 bios ago.
Yeah.
Something happened where we couldn't get together.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, definitely can get back to you."
So those guys are cool, but they got acquired by PRA, but they started in the in the retail industry. They made Marriott's app. That was how they started, and so they had all these cool features that were for patient engagement. It really started as customer engagement, and they had so many different
it's the same principles. It's just
and they had a lot of features that people that started in clinical research never had because it wasn't on the top 10 list. It was the nice to have stuff, but they had it from the very beginning. So now they're trying to get into the other side, and it's again a struggle to get up to speed all the other things you need to run a clinical trial. Yet we have all these other cool features that kind of nobody else has. So where do you use it? How do you scale it? And again...
But they actually had users, or they got enough users to where PRA thought it was good to...
I don't think it was users. It was just...
the idea?
I mean, I don't know the reason why they went there. I question CROs and buying technology companies in general, but because it's not their core competency in theory. But as the market consolidates, you're going to see a lot of these things happening that on paper or on the surface don't make sense, but it's part of a strategy to differentiate, right? But I think that... That is a good play just to get there's a play in there to get more patients they had a good recruitment type system. They integrated with companies like Medidata and others to funnel patients in and keep them engaged and keep them in the study. So that was that concept in general was something that a lot of companies both in pharma, biotech, CROs.
So it wasn't really about finding the patients, it was about using data that was already there and finding a way to package study opportunities to them.
That was part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I think where more people are trying to go. But no one's cracked the formula that works because I think the formula is a little bit different depending on what type of patients you're looking for. It's so unique. It's like advertising.
What we do for Alzheimer's is very different than what we do for schizophrenia, which is very different from asthma.
And I'm not a recruitment expert by any means. I would consider myself a technology guru like you.
Yeah.
But in that perspective, that's probably the area I have the least amount of experience with. But I've been learning a lot more about it. It's been a hot topic. If you've been in this
industry at all, you know that's issue number 1, 2, and 3, and everything else is just a distant number 2 to patient recruitment.
My specialty these days has been patient-reported outcomes, gathering more data from patients. More patients directly, direct data capture from patients. Whether it's subjectively in an app, with a survey, or objectively with a sensor.
That's the thing with all these, and I told Craig the same thing. When it comes to these virtual trials, it's not an issue of the technology. It's there. It's going to only get better. Yeah. It's an issue of trust, awareness. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Joe Schmo down the street, who has asthma, doesn't trust Pfizer. They're the least trusted companies.
Yeah.
Pharma companies.
In the general population, you're right.
So, we're gonna have to think about how to gain trust back.
Yeah, I did a mobile app virtual trial with GSK, public information. It was for rheumatoid arthritis, and so it was called the Parade Study. It was the very first research kit app that was put out there in the market.
That's Apple's thing for everyone listening.
Is that Apple's way into clinical research? Mm-hmm. It was the very first app that was labeled from a pharma company. Most of all the research apps were centered around certain diseases and partnered with academics. Yeah. Right? And this was the very first one.
To keep the brand consistent with who the patients are, because
Well, that's what matters, right? But it was the first time that like GSK put it like their name on it. First time any pharma company did that.
Pretty
because
ballsy.
the reason that you said was like that was kind of might scare people, but they were like, no, this is a good thing, and it worked out great. I mean, they enrolled. That study was a rheumatoid arthritis study. They were looking for people that already had the condition. And they enrolled. It was in a 12-week study. They enrolled 400 patients in a month, and a common similar study of that design when done in traditional means it took them almost a year. And so out of those 400 patients, of course not all of them stayed in the trial. That was the other problem.
They're actually gaining trust back slowly.
I don't know if that's an indicator overall. I think that would be something people would hope to see. That is something that pharma in general is trying to do reputation-wise overall everywhere. We're not your enemy. We're your friend. We're here to help. And
yeah.
Right. I mean, believe me, there are people that out there that think that, you know, they don't want evil pharma in their medical records to like check for data. Oh, they're only trying to do things faster, better to get treatments to patients. Everybody I meet within pharma, there's no one in the back room holding like a secret vault the cure for cancer. Like this doesn't exist. These conspiracies are ridiculous. Right. Everybody I meet within pharma are good people. They all have their own personal stories that drive what they do, and everyone is just trying to do their do their part to help out people, right? And bring treatments to patients faster. I mean, just throw Medidata into it. Our tagline was powering smarter treatments in healthier people. I mean, it's very similar. You know, that's like where technology meets life sciences meets the future. But like people in pharma, they share a lot of the same goals.
Right.
People work in sites. You work with patients every day. You have staff that work with patients every day. It's the same thing. You see all kinds of people. You're in ground zero, man. You see.
Yeah, patients trust their doctor. They trust their coordinator. Yeah. I don't know if they trust the pharma that much.
Yeah, I think that I do see the I do see active efforts to change that.
Yeah,
for sure. And I think it's working.
I think content marketing is going to be huge. Like just having a face to the brand. Like if Pfizer had a talk show for a vertical, let's say Alzheimer's, right?
Maybe they should start a podcast.
Yes, I've been saying this for quite some time.
Maybe they already have one. We don't know that.
Lilly's doing a good job. Or they're trying.
They had some good outreach. They have some good people that are working in those programs, right?
Yeah, Joe Gillen.
Yeah, Joe's great.
They get it. It's just there's a lot of bureaucracy in those companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. So virtual trials, they're here, but I mean, I see the number of trials overall growing too. Like, there's like 100,000 this year, or 150 supposed to be in 2018 in the United States.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
And I bet you if you look on clinicaltrials.gov, what big percentage of that is investigator initiated? I bet you the majority of them are.
You think the majority? No.
There's a metric that I saw that
you could look for academic sponsored.
No, I'm sorry. The majority of mobile health or digital health type trials that were being done, the ones that are registered on clinicaltrials.gov, are still, there's actually more academic ones that are out there than there are pharma. That's gone up every year from the pharma side, where I see they're adopting these things. But it was specific digital health. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Because people might be watching, listening, and they might be a site or someone wanting to start a site, and they might be worried, like, hey, why should I get into this now when they're talking about, here's Dan and Joe talking about them getting rid of sites or CRAs. Someone's out there studying to be a CRA. Right. And they're like, well, they're going to replace me with the risk-based monitoring.
No, I would say...
So Joe from Medidata is saying no.
I would say that, and I know this because we have technology that supports these people that do their job. Okay. Their job is absolutely changing.
The job's going to change for everyone. Sites. Yes. For you guys too, by the way. For everybody.
And what's driving that is new regulations. But also the need to just do things smarter and faster and have more insight into what's happening. So you're going to have more centralized monitoring groups being put into pharma. The people that are working at CROs are going to have to deal with data in a different way, to be more prepared when they go out to sites, to have like a list of issues of stuff that was pre-made automatically from a system that told you from the data what's there, what's to work on. And by the time you leave, you could have your trip report done in a few clicks, and you're done. And the technology does that, saves you time. A lot
of happy monitors.
Yeah, and that's... companies like stuff that I'm doing that exists already. It's pulling data together from multiple places, and you can do it on your iPad, you can do it on your laptop, but then because you have all that data and you see everything in one place, you can log issues, the system log issues for you. It's all in this is all written in that like ICH E6 revision.
And this will create different jobs that we don't even know yet.
I think so.
Just like the trial master file became ETMF, And now that's an entire industry, like having your trial master files online.
Yeah,
there's full-time jobs for people to manage those.
It's people trying to just apply technology solutions to pieces of our industry that are just. It happens in silos, unfortunately, and it takes like someone with a good solution that makes a process that was really frustrating and hard much faster, reduces time, cost, frustration, all those things, and then eventually turns into a platform so that people they all talk to each other automatically, and then you kind of have like a Salesforce.com of clinical trials, kind of like the actual. This is the system I go into to do everything, and it's not.
It could be Medidata.
Yes.
You guys try?
I would say that.
So what do you need for that to happen?
I think that the industry.
Do you sell anything to sites directly?
Directly?
Yeah.
No. Oh. No, not typically.
Sites are the Trojan horse to getting anything you want from pharma, but you guys have most of the market share.
I think that there's this company that we partner with called Clinical Trials IO.
Yes.
You know them?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I know their CEO, and they sell basically like a clinical trial management / whatever
CTMS.
to sites.
Clinicaltrials.io. I interviewed the founder.
He's a great guy. And
what's his name?
I forget.
I think I did a podcast with him.
I think so.
Harvard guy?
I don't remember. I have it here.
Yeah, I have it too.
But basically the
clinicaltrials.io. Yeah.
And so their model was, if we can make sites eSource ready, and they already have their own systems and technology so that they're ready to go, that would make them more attractive to other companies to say you already have technology in place that you are maintaining. You might not have an EMR, but you have something that can get us data faster, could also get us patients faster by qualifying them better. And also you have internal processes that are not based on paper, that are running your own operations a bit more efficient. But historically speaking, clinical sites, like the ones that you run, just take whatever the sponsor gives them, and then they pay you for everything, every little thing you got to do. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of other sites that are I would think you maybe consider this as a creating new sites from scratch, that looking into some kind of technology that you pay for, you maintain yourself, that
like
gives you
that.
Yeah, it's not, or some, I guess I don't know if it's a CTMS in the acronym as known for the past 15 years is a very archaic, monolithic thing that means a lot of stuff that nobody really has done well, and it's so those pieces of CTMS have started to get shot off into different
For sites,
areas.
it basically tracks patient visits, tracks budgets, tracks payments.
Yeah.
That's,
And so if you had a system internally that you ran yourself, but could then plug into the bigger systems that pharma is using, you could send them data. You could be entering data in your system, and it just populates their EDC or populates their system or their database to search for patients.
But just for their study, not for competitor studies, right?
Well,
or are they all sharing?
You would have to be able to plug into different systems based on the sponsors you're working with. But the whole, in general, what I'm getting at is the whole concept of a site maintaining their own technology seems very alien and very like, I would never pay for that.
Right.
Which I think that either needs to change or is changing. I don't know if you'd tell me if you're starting sites from scratch, are you looking at technology to help run your business?
Not yet, but you will.
But why?
You're looking for more practical things, like I need a doctor, now I need a study.
No, okay, so that's the priority. You got it.
Yeah, and then after that, you're like, okay, I guess we need a coordinator.
Okay.
And after that, okay, we need patients. And after that, we need QA. And after that, we need to negotiate our next budget better. And then you start getting into these kind of things. But by that point, 80% fail, right? Because it's just like any other business. So the 20 that are left...
So having the system that actually that's like the 15th thing on the list.
It's a luxury.
Interesting.
But for sites like ours, who've been around for a while, it's something... And you know what? Our sites are small enough to where we... this is the guy.
Raymond. Yeah, that's
his name. Him, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool dude.
CEO of Clinical Trials IO. Cool company.
So my small sites, we don't need CTMS because we can manage everything in-house. I need one personally for to manage all my sites. Because this site here does not communicate with my site in San Bernardino. They know each other, but they don't really. It's not the same company.
It'd be nice to be able to share data.
Yes, so I need it to track my activities.
What would be the most important thing from a site's perspective? If you had a network of sites.
But if I had a big site or a network, yes, I would have a CTMS already.
And to you, and so when I working with the academics in my early days of Medidata, their big feature they needed in a CTMS was to just track financials.
Track financials and track patients.
Yeah.
And have a patient database.
Okay.
Because a lot of these sites are using EMRs. Mm-hmm. But if you don't want to, a guy was last Friday sat right there where you are, from a place here in Orange County. Mm-hmm. They have a huge nonprofit. Yeah. Their doctors volunteer time. They have thousands of patients, right? And what they do is they also have a research clinic, but they don't want to be dependent on that nonprofit, so they want their own database that they're going to start building from scratch. They're looking for this thing you're describing. Mm-hmm. They just don't know what that is yet.
Got it.
I barely know what that is.
So there's some work to do still.
There's a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Hey, last topic before we wrap this up.
This is a good episode.
What are your
151 is a classic.
I think so. Rapid fire, like last 10 minutes,
Joe.
Right? What are the cryptos you're into right now?
Bitcoin.
Just Bitcoin?
BTC.
BTC. You're bullish on Bitcoin?
I have a bunch of altcoins which I forgot about, and those are like my lotto tickets.
So I threw some cash into this a while ago. I'm down right now because I bought with the hype.
Everyone's down.
But I'm gonna hodl. It's all good. I got Ethereum, Litecoin, which I think is just I don't know where that's going.
I'm not too happy with that one.
So the two altcoins that I like are Monero.
I like it.
And Stellar Lumens.
I heard good things.
Yeah, and so as of this podcast,
151, May 23rd.
Yeah, Stellar's at like 28 cents.
You ever got into Tron?
No, I heard about Tron.
I made it like
Tron, EOS, and
Redcoin.
Dash was another one that I liked.
Dash, yeah.
That was cool. So in my mind, I think the one that's going to kill them all is Ethereum. Because Ethereum's like the platform.
In theory, that's the one.
And that's the one that you build everything on top of.
Yes.
And when you have so Ethereum, like the four industries that will be, and this is we start getting into the blockchain stuff, but you could do a whole podcast on blockchain in the healthcare world.
I'm supposed to have someone come on.
Yeah.
Sit right there and do one on blockchain.
So the four industries that the blockchain, which is the underlying infrastructure and technology that runs like the Bitcoin stuff and whatnot, it will. The four industries that it will massively disrupt are financial services,
of course,
healthcare,
of course,
real estate.
Didn't know about that.
Education.
Didn't know about that.
There's a number of ways you can go into this, but on the healthcare side, all your listeners probably care most about that. Like I'm seeing and involved in some of these blockchain healthcare initiatives, and where they're starting. There's two areas I'm seeing they're starting. One, there's some kind of way to share your data, like the Apple Health thing.
Like
being able to share data could be interesting on the blockchain. E-consent, so electronic informed consent to be able to consent with your. Let's just say you consent on a system that is controlled with the blockchain, and then your consent is recorded in the general ledgers everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have apps that take your data, or pharma companies that take your data, and now you're in a database. And let's say you withdraw your consent one day to share your data publicly with people that have taken it. How does that retort or take back the data that was once? You can't do that today. That's what happens with the Cambridge Analytica stuff and whatnot that was with Facebook, right? But if it was built on a blockchain, it would just be removed. You have total control over your individual data points. And I can consent and I can withdraw consent. I can control the individual pieces of my health data and share where I need to be, with who I want, and only the specific bits that are necessary to share, which ensures your privacy and changes things. But we're in this state right now, like we are basically in the 90s of the internet when it comes to blockchain, and when we were talking about TCP/IP and all these different terminologies, the day that the blockchain stuff really starts to become mainstream is nobody talks about blockchain anymore. Right. And
we're early in the game. I mean, they're singing the national anthem.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And at this point, like the financials, like every other industry, healthcare is the unfortunately the only just more innovative than the government. And so financial services will do this all, and it'll rocket, and then healthcare will be somewhere down below. But there are massive, I think. What about paying sites in crypto?
What about incentivizing the patients with sharing their data?
Yeah.
By giving them currency.
Yeah. And as long as they have some kind of value in that currency to be exchanged for something else.
Or what about, I'm a patient, I got an MRI done here. I just want my image. I don't need to pay someone $3,000 to interpret it. Right. I will take that image, send it to a doctor in Spain for 1/5 the cost.
Yeah.
pay him with a crypto. Just give him that. I mean, that's the future.
There are like companies I've seen, they're doing market research and like, would you share your data and be paid in some kind of cryptocurrency? Would you only share your data if you got compensated? Would you share it for the good of research because you have some disease you care about? I think there's probably some people that would do it otherwise. But would you share it for free, knowing that it would be protected? Would you like to get compensated? Would you only do it if you get compensated? And does that compensation need to be cash or euros or what? Right. So there's a coming wave. I think people sometimes see this as a thing. It's a fad. It's going to go away. This is when you have.
Right? Are you mining?
I'm not.
I'm mining in a pool, but it's,
I just haven't had time to get into it. I want to be able to just plug a box in and go.
I'm mining Ethereum actually, and they had issues.
It's the one.
They had mining issues.
There's speed and performance is an issue. I believe that was it the Bitcoin network or all of the major cryptos. I don't know if it was all or just one of them. The amount of energy it was consuming was more than Ireland.
Oh, it's Bitcoin.
Is it Bitcoin in general? Yeah.
Mostly,
and it's the performance is horrible, but they'll get there. They'll fix it.
I'm accumulating.
I think it'll be.
I think Bitcoin was like the Amazon of the pre-internet or pre.com bubble, and then you get Ethereum's probably like Apple or Google. Then you have the new wave, like the new Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ethereum's the long-term one. Bitcoin,
I think so too,
as well because of market notoriety. But I mean, there are
I had to pick one,
and
and I'm just gonna go on Bitcoin. But Ethereum's like,
I'm a by nature of where I work and what I do, I'm a platform guy.
Yeah.
So like if Ethereum is the platform to build other types of things across industries on,
it makes sense.
It's the thing that goes beyond just like a coin. And I just see there are going to be things that people just don't understand that it could be possible, and people will figure it out. I was schooled up by a number of people in our industry on what the blockchain was, and I still keep in touch with them. I'm still learning more every day.
Yeah.
In the context of healthcare and probably the financial side. The financial side keeps me interested because it's the money thing and it's cool. But the healthcare side is really where like there could be some really interesting new ideas that come out.
I think so.
And companies that are started and things like that.
So.
I feel we should be watching that for sure.
Me too.
So.
Any more rapid fire?
Rapid fire. How long does it take to get to LAX
a long time.
From here?
What time is it?
Yeah.
This is about the time you should.
So like an hour and a half from Orange County. I should just go to Orange County Airport. That's where I should go.
Yes, you should.
I should have thought of that one.
Can you switch?
Probably, maybe.
You should.
That's a good idea.
That's much better.
It was great to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you too. I can't believe we never met. I was at a few conferences last year, the year before, but I guess you weren't there.
Yeah, I'll be at DIA this year. In Boston. It's in June.
I won't.
That's okay. I'll be at the Disruptive Innovations in Pharma Conference it's in September, October this year. That's a good one. That'll be in Boston. All the conferences are in Boston this year.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to.
I was just at Scope this past year.
Okay, I usually go.
That's a good one. The Society for Clinical Research Sites, SCRS. That's one.
That, trying to like the Guru Conference 2019.
You're doing a Guru Conference? You're gonna do a conference?
Yeah. Orlando.
Do everything. Jeez.
We have a guy who's knows what he's doing.
Okay.
It's just a conference guy.
Okay.
He actually reached out.
I really enjoy the smaller niche conferences as opposed to the big ones.
It's going to be small at first, but he says he can blow it up, but I don't really think that's necessary.
Cool.
Just want to give value to the sites.
All right, we'll keep in touch.
And have people like you on. Keynote by Joe Dustin.
Give me a call. We'll see what we can do.
That's right. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. And we'll catch y'all later. Bye-bye.